Okay, so let's dive in. We're looking at a pretty specific source today. It's a PDF actually called Buying Land from Abroad, and it's from a company called Amcco Properties.
That's right. And our goal here is really to unpack what this particular document says, especially for diaspora investors thinking about buying land in Kenya. That's the target audience.
Right, and the source itself sets the scene pretty clearly.
Yeah.
It says diaspora investors are, well, a big deal in Kenya's real estate scene.
A very big deal. The document claims real estate is like the top investment choice for them. And it mentions something about over half of foreign direct investment in property coming from diaspora.
Wow, over 50%. And there was that specific claim about capital gains too.
Yeah, it mentions some spots in Nairobi seeing annual capital gains up to 60%. That's a huge number.
60%. Okay, that definitely gets your attention. But, buying property from thousands of miles away, it feels risky, right? Seems daunting.
It absolutely can be. And this document, to its credit, doesn't really gloss over that. It actually starts by laying out the challenges.
Good. So what kind of risks does it highlight?
Well, the obvious ones, I suppose. Things like fraudulent sellers. That's probably top of mind for many.
Definitely. And not being sure who really owns the land, that kind of uncertainty.
Exactly. Unclear ownership, plus worries about payments. Are they secure? Will the money actually get where it needs to go safely?
Makes sense.
What else? Then there are things like delays getting the actual title deed. That seems to be a common frustration mentioned.
The paperwork lag?
Yeah. And then practical stuff like limited legal oversight because you're not there. Communication gaps because of time zones.
Right. Trying to sort things out across continents.
And just the basic fact that you're physically distant from the land you're buying. It's quite a list they acknowledge.
Okay, so it paints a picture of the potential pitfalls. How does the document then suggest navigating these? What's the proposed solution?
So this is where the source introduces Amcco Properties' own approach, which they call their Diaspora plan.
A specific plan for diaspora buyers.
Exactly. It's positioned as their way to, bridge that gap, the distance versus the need for trust.
And how do they say they build that trust? According to this document, what's their method?
The source really emphasizes two core things. First, they state they only deal in land the company itself owns.
Okay, so no third-party sellers involved in their deals?
Apparently not, based on this. And second, they talk about facilitating a, quote, fully transparent end-to-end legal process. The idea presented is to basically cut down the uncertainty for the buyer abroad.
Right. Dealing only in company-owned land sounds like it directly addresses that fraudulent seller risk we mentioned.
It seems designed that way, yes. And transparency, especially around the title deed, is obviously huge.
So what does the document say about titles? That's often a major sticking point.
It puts a big focus on what it calls title-ready assurance. It explicitly states that all the plots they offer are, ready to go with the title deed.
Title ready, meaning the paperwork is already sorted on their end.
That's the implication. And they make a really specific commitment on timing, too.
Oh, yeah. What's the time frame mentioned in the source?
It promises guaranteed title delivery within 30 days of the buyer making the full payment.
30 days guaranteed. That's quite specific.
Very specific. And they frame it as a way to, reduce stress and avoid those long, uncertain waiting games that can happen. That 30-day promise is definitely presented as a key benefit.
If they deliver on that, yeah, that tackles the title deed delay risk head on. Okay, so where are these title-ready plots located? Does the source mention specific areas?
It does. It says they focus on what they call high-growth zones with serious potential. The specific towns named are Ngong, Kikuyu, Kamangu, and Thigio.
Ngong and Kikuyu. Those names come up a lot in Nairobi real estate talk. Does the document explain why they see potential there?
It gives some reasons. For Ngong, it points to big infrastructure projects nearby, things like the Southern Bypass, the expansion of Ngong Road.
Connectivity improvements.
Exactly. And proximity to the Suswa SGR station, that's the railway. The source claims this means you can get to the main airport, JKIA, in under an hour.
Okay, that's definitely appealing for someone flying in and out. Easy access. Makes sense for long-term value, too.
That's how it's presented. And for Kikuyu.
What about Kikuyu? What's the draw there, according to the source?
Its closeness to Nairobi's central business district, only about 20 kilometers, it says. So fast commutes. Plus, it mentions good schools, a growing residential area.
Sounds like a developing suburban hub.
Pretty much. And again, its location on the Southern Bypass is highlighted as a big plus. The document calls these areas places that are shifting the real estate narrative. Not just plots, but opportunities.
Okay, interesting framing. So they identify the risks, they propose their model company land, clear process, fast titles, and they target these growing areas. But due diligence is still absolutely critical, right? Especially buying remotely. What does the source say about how they handle that?
Right, so they detail what they term a full spectrum due diligence process, and importantly, they say this is done before they even offer the land for sale.
So pre-vetted land, what checks does the document actually list?
It mentions official title searches using Artisa.
Ah, the government's online land system. Good.
Yes, crucial for verification. Also, checking ownership and boundaries, making sure the zoning is correct for building, and getting certification from the land registry.
So ticking the main boxes, is there anything else mentioned as a safeguard for the buyer?
Yes, the document states they issue something called an indemnity undertaking.
An indemnity. What does that mean in this context?
It's basically a formal promise. They guarantee the legitimacy and say they'll compensate the buyer if some legal issue with the title pops up later that they should have caught. It's like an extra layer of financial protection.
Okay.
And the document is quite blunt about the process, it says. You get receipts for everything.
Receipts for everything. That points towards trying to build that confidence, that paper trail for someone far away. The source also mentions an external partnership, doesn't it?
It does. It highlights a partnership with the Kenyan National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, KNCCI.
Okay, the Chamber of Commerce. How is that presented as a benefit?
The source frames it as something that boosts their accountability and helps them reach the diaspora market more effectively, like external validation.
And does it list specific advantages coming from this KNCCI connection?
Yeah, it lists a few things. Potentially greater transparency, maybe faster document processing, which links back to that 30-day title thing, access to legal and investment advice, and just generally more global visibility for their diaspora services.
Okay, so bringing this all together, the document clearly argues there's a compelling reason for diaspora investors to consider this now. What are the key drivers it summarizes?
It boils down to about 3 main points, according to the source. First, the general performance of Kenya's real estate market. They claim it consistently delivers double-digit annual returns.
Okay, strong market growth potential.
Second, the role of diaspora remittances themselves. The document notes these are driving serious investment momentum back into Kenya, particularly in property.
So diaspora money is already flowing into this sector significantly.
That's the picture painted. And third, their specific plots are positioned as having immediate potential, whether for building a home or for commercial use, in these fast-growing areas near Nairobi that they operate in.
Right. So wrapping this specific source up, the main takeaway seems to be that it presents a particular pathway. A model from Amcco Properties aimed squarely at diaspora investors, heavily emphasizing security, transparency, speed, especially with that 30-day title promise, all facilitated by their stated processes and that KNCCI partnership.
Exactly. It attempts, based purely on what's in this document, to directly counter those initial risks it laid out. It offers specific mechanisms within their system as the solution. As you listen, it's worth thinking about which parts of this specific model, these claims, stand out most to you.
And it ends on quite an interesting note, doesn't it? The source suggests the investor brings the vision, while the company provides the land, the legal framework, and the local know-how.
Yeah, that vision part is intriguing. What does that actually mean when you're investing from maybe London or Dallas or Dubai into places like Ngong or Kikuyu that are changing rapidly?
Is the vision just about building a house eventually, or is it purely about the investment growth, the resale value, maybe something else?
And maybe more importantly, what are the unique angles and the opportunities, but also maybe the unseen challenges in trying to realize that vision when you're physically absent, but relying on the kind of local processes, guarantees, and partnerships that this specific source describes. Something to think about.